I was reading the news the other day, and there was an article that I came across that made me think about the criminal justice system and justice in general when it comes to being a Christian. I don't know how the criminal justice system works around the world, but in the United States we have an attorney general who is responsible for the implementation of all federal laws. And recently, the Attorney General has implemented harsher guidelines in regards to criminal sentencing, reversing the previous administration's policies. I'll link the story below if you want to read it. Now, to be clear, each country can do whatever it wants in punishing those who have broken its laws. In my country, we like jails. We have over 1/4 of the world's prison population locked up in either state, local, or federal prisons. But in other countries, when they want to punish somebody, they may stone them, or they may chop off their head or their hand. In other countries, it's caning somebody for breaking the laws. And in the case of North Korea, you just get executed with an anti-aircraft gun. So if the Attorney General in my country wants to more harshly enforce federal law, this isn't a Christian nation, so you do you. However, a Christian view of justice? Now that's interesting to me. Now I'm going to start with the Bible, of course, and I'm going to start with the Old Testament. But as Christians, we can't really be going to the Old Testament for our view of justice, because Jesus changed things. But more on that to come. Let's just start with the Old Testament first. Now, in the Old Testament, the system of justice goes like this: an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Or, put more simply, the punishment must fit the crime. Now, when it comes to this idea of Old Testament justice, I always laugh at the silly people on TV or the pontificators who want to bring this country back into a more perfect union with the biblical principles, trying to establish the Bible as the base for who we are. Because if you start to think about it, 99% of our prison populations would have to be let out if we actually followed the idea of the punishment fitting the crime. Because let's be honest, most of the prisoners in jail right now are in jail not because of their punishment fitting the crime, but because people were excessive in their punishment. So if this is you, you might want to rethink and reread your Bible. Now, for Christians though, the idea of justice gets completely upended by Jesus Christ when he comes to earth, because he introduces us to an idea called grace. Now, to illustrate this, I want you to think of a crime. If you need to, pause the video. Okay, now that you've come up with a crime, I want you to think of an Old Testament punishment for that crime. Got it? Now, grace comes along and says you're not going to be punished for that crime because it's already been paid for. Now, a slight side note on this idea of grace. Most people who say they're Christians don't have a full understanding of what grace truly means. And when I say that, I'm also going to put myself into that category because I've grown up in the church and grace has been taught to us forever. But it's not something we truly, deeply understand. However, I think that's going to be a video for another time. But for Christians, they feel and they know that somehow justice hasn't taken place and that the punishment that they rightfully deserve isn't going to fall on them. But for Christians, they feel and they know that somehow justice has not taken place in their lives and that the punishment that they deserve isn't going to happen to them. So Christians wholly embrace this idea of grace, and they embrace it to such an extent that they want others to feel and experience the same thing that they feel and experience. So whenever they have an opportunity, they're going to extend grace to other people. It's sort of the whole turning the other cheek kind of thing. And this really does make us unique among the nations of the world, because when others want to punish harshly, we want to extend grace. True Christians want to show this grace. So second, third, fourth, and fifth chances are not out of the ordinary. Punishment, as how the world implements it, is not in our DNA. It's not in our soul. For Christians, justice is less about punishment and more about redemption, giving a chance for that which is broken to be made whole. I started my journey doing this video series on asking the question, what is Christianity? And today, in a small part, I've answered one of those small questions. It's still a long way to go on this journey, and there's still so many unanswered questions that I will eventually get to. But it's just really great to see that doing this video series has helped me answer one of those small questions. So let me know your thoughts. Put them down below in the comments. And of course, like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And you can do that right here. And last week's video is going to be right about there. God bless, and thank you for watching.